Frog and snail anatomy presentation for biology lab. The similarities and differences between frogs and snails. The similarities. Both frogs and snails have lungs, kidney, eyes, and mouth. The differences. Snails have a calcium shell, secretes mucus, tentacles, upper posterior, lower anterior, stylosis, Halloween balloons surrounded by cells with ciliated interior filled with lymphatic fluid located in the snail's foot region. Muscular foot. Phylogenetic tree. The last common ancestor between the two species is the nervous and vascular system. The species is Seleucioidaris, also known as the grass frog. Its genus is the chorus frog. It belongs to the tree frog family. It is in Anura order, an amphibian class, a chordate phylum, and it is in the animal kingdom. The ecological habitat for the frog. Grass frogs live in North America except for the Pacific coast. These frogs tend to live near marshes and ponds and sometimes can be found in grasslands searching for food. Their habitat tends to be between 18 to 25 degrees Celsius. One thing all these habitats all have in common is they are very moist and have a lot of water.
In a food chain, frogs are secondary consumers. They control insect populations, but are also a food source for larger animals. In the slide, you can see a diagram that shows that frogs consume a variety of insects and small fish, but they are also consumed by larger organisms like snakes and cranes. So, frogs usually become sexually mature at 3 years old. Spawning begins 3 to 5 days after hibernation during the months of April and May. Egg fertilization occurs outside the female's body. The male climbs on the back of the female, which is a mating position called the amplexus. That allows for the female to release eggs while the male releases sperm at the same time, and they can remain in this position for hours and even days.
Our animal was a snail, which is a part of the Animalia kingdom, the Mollusca phylum, the Gastropoda class, the Stylomotophora order, the Helicidae family, the Cornu genus, and the most specific is the Cornu aspersum for species, which was previously known as the Helix aspersa.
For the ecological habitats of a snail, they are usually found in areas like meadows, hedges, farmlands, gardens, and parks. Some biotic factors that we look for are plants that have a lot of moisture and good sources of calcium. Along with abiotic factors, we look for warm climates and high humidity.
Snails generally fit towards the bottom of the food chain. They mostly consume rotting vegetation, fungi, and occasionally soil. They are targeted by many predators, but specifically birds, snakes, mice, and insects. Birds are their biggest predators, and they heavily rely on the calcium that the snail shell provide. One of the most distinct features of a snail's mating patterns and behaviors is that they are hermaphrodites. This means that they have both male and female genitalia. To start the mating process, the snails usually start off with a mating dance, which usually lasts for a long period of time, including hours. During this time, the male will usually try to shoot a dart filled with calcium carbonate towards their female partner. This is to better improve the chances of the male sperm reaching the eggs and successfully fertilizing them.
The digestive system of the frog starts with the mouth. Food passes through the esophagus into the stomach and then is moved to the small intestine, which takes care of digestion and absorption. The liver and pancreas are the two large digestive glands. The liver helps with metabolism, detoxification, glycogen storage, and blood synthesis, while the pancreas is responsible for secreting digestive enzymes. The gallbladder temporarily stores the bile produced in the liver, and if not, the bile is transported to the small intestine through the bile duct. The large intestine is where water and salts are reabsorbed and solid wastes are formed. The end of their digestive system is the rectum, which is what the large intestine mainly consists of.
When it comes to comparing the digestive systems between a snail and frog, the snail has a mouth on the bottom of its head. It also has tiny teeth inside to help scrape up the food instead of chewing, thus allowing food to pass into the esophagus and through the digestive tract as well.
In a frog, respiration can happen through their skin and using their lungs. Since their skin is rich in blood vessels, oxygen can reach the blood by passing through the membranous skin. Typically, frogs use their skin to breathe when they are underwater, but normally wind just enters through their nostrils, which passes through their windpipes and into their lungs. Frogs can also just simply open their mouth, which allows the air to go through their windpipe. Unlike other organisms, frogs do not have ribs nor a diaphragm, and their chest muscles are not needed for breathing.
Snails are pulmonate animals, which means that they do have lungs. However, theirs are extremely basic compared to the frogs. In most land snails, the lung is located within the mantle cavity, and they breathe in and out through the pneumostome or the breathing pore.
When comparing circulatory systems between snails and frogs, we see that in snails, they have an open circulatory system, meaning that their blood circulates freely between their organs. It's also mixed with lymphatic fluid, creating hemolymph. Snails also have two heart chambers, one ventricle and one atrium, and that is located in their pericardium.
Comparing circulatory systems, frogs have a closed circulatory system. It means that the blood is pumped from the heart to the rest of the body, and gas exchange in the bloodstream happens in small vessels. Comparing nervous systems, frog, the nervous system consists of the brain, spinal cord, and nerves. There is the medulla, which regulates autonomic functions such as digestion and respiratory, body, body posture, and muscular coordination are controlled by the cerebellum. The frog's nervous system is not very different from the human nervous system.
Unlike a frog's nervous system, snails do not have a brain. Instead, all of their nerve cells are located in a set of ganglia, and this ganglia will emit neural secretions that trigger actions such as the release of hormones or certain behaviors.
When comparing excretory and reproductive systems between snails and frogs, we see that in snails, filtration takes place through the heart bag's walls, and excretion takes place in a kidney. The kidney walls they filtrate blood flowing throughout the snail, and snails' excretion organs derived from segmented worms. Excrete urea contain almost no water also. As for the reproductive system, snails are hermaphrodites, so they can self fertilize, but they usually copopulate with other snails. But definitely, if they wanted to, they could just reproduce with themselves, being as that they have both reproductive organs to do so.
The system is made up of two left and right kidneys that take care of cleansing the blood from waste, reabsorbing water and salts, and also disposing liquid waste through urine. A pair of ureters transports urine up to the urinary bladder, and then solid waste in the large intestine go into the cloaca and the cloaca vent. The mesentery is what keeps the kidneys and genital organs together. Then the male reproductive system consists of testes, sperm ducts, and cloaca. Along the fine ducts, the sperm goes from the testes through the kidneys and then to the left and right ureters and then the cloaca. Also, male frogs do not have a penis. And then the female reproductive system consists of ovaries, oviducts, and ovisacs, and a cloaca. The ovaries produce eggs that move through oviducts into the ovisacs, then through the cloaca outside the body. Ovaries vary in size depending upon the season. In the spring, for example, prior to the egg laying, they are greatly distended and fill a large portion of the body cavity. But after egg laying until the fall, the ovaries are much smaller.
In conclusion, other than a few organs, there aren't very many similarities between frogs and snails. They both evolved in two different directions very far back in the past, and they do not share any recent ancestors.